I started that wrong. I got all concerned. Look at that. Do you see
Oh.
the gray hair right there? So welcome to Trope Talk with Michelle and Victorine. We're excited to be here. Victorine, how long has it been since we've done this? A couple weeks, huh? Because we've been doing what?
We were on a writing
We
cruise. It
were.
was awesome.
We had so much fun. And so much so that we're already planning our next cruise.
Yes.
So we're going to make announcements about that in the Writing Gals group very soon.
Very soon. We're super close.
Yeah. So if you're not part of our group, then you need to head over there because that's where we're going to make the announcements first. But today in Trope Talk, we're going to be talking about grumpy sunshine. So do you want to be grumpy or do you want to be sunshine today? I thought we could no.
We take on the personality. I'll be sunshine today
Of
because I
course.
have sunflowers on. So.
Oh yeah, you do, and I do have black on.
That's true. It totally matches.
That works. Sometimes I saw if you talk about like if the sunshine character is a sun, then the grumpy would be like a thundercloud, and it's really gray and kind of gloomy here today. So I guess I definitely am the grumpy character today. Do you love this trope?
I love this trope. I use this trope actually quite a bit.
I do too. I was thinking about it. And I saw some people refer to grumpy sunshine as where the man is grumpy and the woman is sunshine, and then reverse grumpy sunshine is the other way around.
Yes.
So I think I write more reverse grumpy sunshine.
Do you? I definitely, the guy is always the grumpy one in mine. So I definitely do that.
That's how I prefer it. I prefer for the guy to be grumpy. I don't know why I write it the other way around more often. Some of my male characters can be grumpy, but I think I just tend to write funny male characters, like lighthearted, bantery, optimistic, that sort of like fun-loving character. And but I prefer the reserved, cold, quiet, kind of sunder character who is often like grumpy. Yes. So how do we make this not just like, yeah, these are like a small part of their characteristics or their personality, right? How does this become a plot, like a story about Grumpy Sunshine?
Well, I definitely think that it has to do with their character arc, right? The grumpy guy has to have some kind of character arc where he's overcoming something in his past that has made him closed off. He's got the walls up and he is not letting anybody in. And that's his character arc. And her fun-loving sunshine just lets him break down those walls and let her in.
Yeah, and it's not, we're not going to do it where we're trying to make this sunshine character grumpy. Like it's not going to go in that direction.
Wrong direction.
That's a different genre, I think.
Yeah.
So what we do need to recognize that while the grumpy character is obviously going to have scars in his past, things that make him, his personality, have like a negative outlook or be more down and gloomy or reserved or just not very bright, that the sunshine character might have things that made her sunshiny, or like where she is like doing it out with intention, right?
Yes.
So I think there's two ways to write a sunshine character, where it's something that is a natural part of her personality. So there's this YouTube channel that I watch, where it's this woman who lives in Svalbard in this like snowy, cold place, which is the absolute opposite of where I would ever want to live, but I'm fascinated by it. And she's just always, always so chipper and happy and positive about everything, and everything is beautiful and wonderful. And it would be super annoying, except it's so genuine. It just comes off as so genuine. And she was doing like a Q&A one time, and her followers were asking her, like, why are you so happy? And she said, I don't know. My mom says I've just always been this way. And I think that can happen. But I think sometimes there are characters that have to choose because they've also had hard things in their lives. And
Mhm.
they just choose to be happy and cheerful
Sure.
and optimistic and see the, silver lining in our gloomy thundercloud. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I've done it both ways, where that's just their personality and they can't help it and they're always just that way. And the other one is where she is making a decision to be that way to try and pull him out of his grumpiness. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've done it both ways.
And I think it's important to recognize that your sunshine character can have moments where they struggle and where they're sad and where maybe they can't always find the good in everything either.
Yes. And I think it's more impactful when they start to break down and they cry and it's like, "Oh my goodness, you're always happy. What is wrong?" Yeah.
Yeah, and so the meat of this trope that makes it work for a whole story is that it is kind of that opposite thing, but that creates all the conflict between them that kind of drives the story forward, but where they have to learn to sort of help each other and adapt to each other.
Yes.
And there's obviously going to be other outside forces that are providing the conflict, and this just deepens it and makes it more difficult.
Mhm.
So the sunshine, we've already said, shouldn't be grumpy, and that they can have moments where they're sad, but can the grumpy person have moments where they're happy and cheerful? This is trickier, isn't it?
That is trickier. Yes, that is trickier. I think for me, I don't think they can be like super sunshiny in moments. I would rather see them they're they smile. You know what I
Like their
mean? Just
own
a little.
version of happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that is one mistake that authors make a lot is that once the grumpy character is happy or they are in love or whatever, that their whole personality changes.
Yeah, that wouldn't be true to their character to me.
No, even if the things that made them grumpy get somehow resolved or something, like you need to stay true to the personality elements that, are deeply embedded in them and
Yeah.
just make sure that you show that they are warming up, especially with that person. And you can see like sort of a change of outlook or hope for the future, but then they don't suddenly become just this laughy, jokey,
Yes.
lighthearted person all the time, and I've seen that happen before, and it's just like, "Who are you?" Typically, we really find, them attractive despite their grumpiness, or maybe because of their grumpiness in some
Yeah.
ways, and when they change, it's jarring and, makes us kind of reconsider who they are as a character.
But I love it when the grumpy guy has this soft teddy bear inside,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And that comes through as the book progresses.
I like when there's just subtle little tells that they're happy, especially when
Yeah.
they're happy around that person, or like when they try to hide a smile, or maybe they don't even let her see that he's smiling. Or if we're talking about reverse grumpy sunshine, where maybe she never softens or becomes like cheerful, but she finds ways to express in that maybe she's not stressed anymore, maybe she's more easygoing, maybe she like gives sort of like sarcastic comments, but you could tell like she's just joking, so I that's usually what my female characters that are grumpy do is they tend to have a really dry sarcastic sense of humor. I think
Mm.
that's common with grumpy characters, but especially I think with my women, they tend to like have this really like dry sense of humor with the little comments and digs that they'll make. But those somehow become a little bit more gentle and like affectionate
Mm.
as they fall in love and they're happy, and they have a lot more patience with things, and they will be fond and affectionate at their sunshine person's sort of like crazy personality or funny things that they do, where in the beginning it's really annoying to them, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that you have to start in the beginning where they are deeply annoyed by each other.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that's part of the trope.
Yeah. So we start where he's grumpy, she's sunshine. They interact in whatever way your story brings them together, and they just cannot stand each other's outlooks on life and their personality. And then you have to find a reason where they become kind of invested in each other or forced to spend time together. And in that process, they start serving each other in ways like, how can I make this grumpy person not like so miserable or look more optimistically in the situation? How can I give them
Yes.
advice? Or, like, she's happy and I love it when she's happy and now she's sad. So what can I do to fix it? That's
Yes.
one of my favorite scenes in A Grumpy Sunshine is
Yes.
when the sunshine person is sad and then the grumpy person just like goes out of their way and makes this huge effort to restore the sunshine in them because
Yeah.
they can't stand it.
Yep. I agree.
I've been trying to think of some examples, and I actually made quite a list of grumpy
Nice.
signs. If we're going to go way back, there's a Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn movie called Bringing Up Baby. Which
I
I
haven't
think
seen that.
it's okay. So it's crazy. Like, in fact, the director said it wasn't a box office hit when it came out, but now it's like a cult classic.
Yeah.
And the director said he thought people didn't like it because all the characters are crazy in it. But Cary Grant's character is constantly frustrated at Katharine Hepburn's character, and she's like this light, bubbly, free spirit, like blah 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 blah, just causing chaos, and like he's like a paleontologist and very like reserved and methodical and scientific, and he's just like, what is this mad woman? She's like this socialite. Anyways, it's a really fun one. Emma by Jane Austen
Yes.
is a good one because Emma is, definitely optimistic because she like gets into so much trouble all the time, and it takes like no time for her to be like right back at it again. Like, the world is fine and happy and everything will be wonderful, and like, oh, I got myself into trouble again, and so it's just a good example.
Yeah.
Sound of Music.
That's a really good one.
Captain Von Trapp is
Mm.
definitely grumpy, like extremely grumpy at the beginning, and she
Yes.
is spinning in the hills, singing and making children laugh. Sunshine.
Yes.
Frozen.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. I wouldn't have thought of
So
that.
yeah, I was just at Disney with my family, and we rode the Frozen ride, and me and the girls are always like, "Oh, Kristoff." But he's a grumpy character, and he's a great grumpy character. He's a very endearing grumpy character. So I think sometimes it's hard to make a really grumpy character super endearing,
Yes.
and Kristoff pulls that off. She's Got Mail.
Ah.
She's All That, which is like, that came out around like my junior, senior year of high school. So that is like, prime rom-com for me.
Yes.
And he is Sunshine and she is Grumpy. So if you want a good example of reverse Grumpy Sunshine, that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Enchanted.
Mm-hmm.
She's Sunshine, he's Grumpy for sure. Do you have any do you want to throw out, or any that you've written?
I was thinking Pretty Woman.
Oh yeah.
That's a good Grumpy Sunshine for me. That was the one I was thinking of. And the one I've written, the first one I wrote, I think, is A Marriage of Anything But Convenience, where he's definitely the grumpy character and she's the sunshine. And but she's more snarky Sunshine.
It's funny.
And the one I just wrote was pretty Grumpy Sunshine too. So it was Because You Loved Me. What about you? Have you written which ones have you written that are Grumpy Sunshine?
So The Trust of the Billionaire is one where I think he's borderline grumpy and she's very sunshine. I think My Saved by the Rock Star is one for sure. And I say my Bodyguard Summer is where she's grumpy and he's sunshine. But I think in my latest rom-com, be my ex. I think she's grumpy and he's sunshine. I
Nice.
really do. Even though I never kind of classified that in my mind. And I think
Yeah.
that that's a distinction to make. I wanted to bring that up. Like, I think you can go into a story and you can pick out your characters and be like, oh, they're more grumpy and they're more sunshine. Like, if you had to like pick. I think that there is a way to be very, very intentional about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're wanting this to be like a true hardcore grumpy sunshine and market it as that, I think it's really important to go at it intentionally from the beginning and make the difference between them as drastic as
Sure.
possible.
Sure.
And so there can be an element of grumpy sunshine easily, but if you want it to be like really, really significant and impactful, then go at it from the beginning and do it on purpose.
I agree.
One other word of wisdom I would give is be careful not to make your sunshine character like a Mary Sue, which I think
Yes,
can happen really easily.
it can.
And so a Mary Sue is just someone who doesn't really have a lot of flaws and everything's like bright and perfect and they always like know the right way to do things and always have the answer or don't have any problems. Mary Sue characters tend to have that like easy looking sort of life or personality.
Yeah.
And that's not really what sunshine is at all. So
Yeah.
just be careful about that. And also, if you're going to write a grumpy woman, just work really hard to also make her lovable because lovable female grumps can be a little bit more tricky than
Yes.
lovable male grumps. And we can look at society and why that is. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I think it is trickier. And so you just have to give them, really, really good reasons why they're grumpy and
Mhm.
also give them endearing characteristics besides that. Things that you sympathize with them, things that you can see they're trying really hard, and you don't want to make them just mean. And I would say that with
Right.
the guy too. Like, don't make your grumpy character like unreasonably mean towards anybody. They're gonna be cranky and rude, maybe, but not like. Don't take the meanness too far because you have to
Yes.
redeem them and bring them back from it.
Yes. And I did another Grumpy Sunshine one. It was Christmas with the Recluse.
Mm,
And I gave him an animal that he cared about to
yeah.
make him a little less, rude and grumpy and so you can do that too. It's something to redeem them a little bit.
Yep. Well, this has been fabulous. I always get so excited talking about tropes, and I'm excited to talk about next week, which is opposites attract.
Yes,
So, Grumpy Sunshine is an opposites attract, but there are
it
so
is.
many more out there and so many more ways to do it. So, we're excited to cover that next
Yay.
time. And so,
Oh, I had one more thing I
oh,
wanted to say.
go for it.
So with the grumpy, it's really easy to see how he is covering up his insecurities by being the grump. But I think the sunshine is doing the exact same thing. And you
Mm,
have to really portray that she is covering up some of her insecurities by being this sunshine character.
yeah.
So you
Our
can,
characters have secrets. That's
yes,
what makes them interesting. Okay.
yes. All right.
Subscribe, follow us on Facebook in the Writing Gals, and we will be making announcements about cruises and conference and all kinds of things. But you can always join our academy. So you
Yes,
can find a link to the academy below. And we're always adding new classes to that. So we're building up quite a library there. And
yes,
people are telling us that they really appreciate the classes and they're learning a lot. So I think you'll find good value there yourself if you check it out.
yes.
Until next time, we will see you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.